Let's just take
Motion
it.
to make it green.
All right, I'm ready.
Amy, ready?
Ready? Good evening to our June Board of Education meeting on June the 13th. I welcome everybody here tonight. It's good to see all the friendly faces and so forth. Very good. We're having great weather outside, so can't beat it. So welcome again. And the time that we're coming in is 6 o'clock. All right, first item on our agenda tonight is approval of agenda. You all have a chance to look at that. Recommended action is to approve the agenda as presented.
This is Derek Evans. I move we accept the agenda as presented.
Kim Hopkins, our second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. All right, good. Let's stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, Stan. Let's take a moment of silence. Thank you. Item number 4 is approval of minutes from the May 17th board meeting. Mr. Savage was not present, so we cannot vote on this action. Recommended action is to approve the minutes for the May 17th, 2022 board meeting.
Ms. Jacobs, I make a motion that we approve the minutes of May 17th, 2002 board meeting.
For Pernell, and I second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the board meeting for May the 17th of 2022. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Item number 5 is public participation. I've been informed by Mrs. Anthony that there are no public participation forms. So we will move on to item number 6, reports and presentations. The first one is the awards. We have several awards. Which one did you want to do?
I'm actually going to start with having Mrs. Simmons come up.
Okay,
These are 2 awards that she has talked to us about, and I made a very special for you.
They are.
I would
They
like-
are. So my first one is for Diane's bus service. Jim and Tammy Horn run Diane's bus service for us. And I asked for them to be recognized in their efforts. This past year, there was not a time where I called Tammy and Jim, and they were willing to help us every way possible with the field trips, with the athletic events, even to where we had to rearrange schedule changes, time changes, have kids come in and go out. Jim and Tammy have been phenomenal as far as helping us this past year maneuver now getting back into field trips and also getting back into full athletic. So on behalf of them, I want to just recognize them for their accommodations as well as helping us, but also their drivers as well. Because I know there were some days where Jim and Tammy would have to shuffle and do things, and Jim may have to take a route to Wilmington to make things work. And so I wanted to recognize both Jim and Tammy for their service. Tammy never told me no, except for one occasion, and then she called me back and said, we'll make it work.
Thank you, very much. You guys can go for, now you get your picture taken. Good thing.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Yeah, just be prepared.
Thank you guys.
I do want to emphasize, this would not have been possible without our drivers.
Exactly. My second one goes to Mr. Parker, who we all know is a crossing guard who stands down there in the rain, snow, heat, wherever he is. I want to commend him on his dedication to his crossing guard job. He is a faithful, valuable member of the transportation department, and his efforts are amazing. Not only does he ensure that the students cross this busy intersection down there, but he's a key player in the movement of our buses as they depart from the middle school every afternoon in the parking lot. He also helps to ensure that the traffic, both in the mornings and in the afternoon, keeps it flowing in all directions as best as possible that he can. We also certainly know that when he is not on his post, we. This is not even in my notes here, but I have a meeting with the city of Seaford as well as the police department. When Mr. Parker is not there, they send 2 officers to do his job. And we all know that those 2 officers don't do it very well when Mr. Parker's not there. So we certainly want to commend you and well done on your efforts and your job, helping us get the kids to and from school. We thank you, Mr. Parker. And you can't retire. I'm just telling you that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Parker, if you do retire, we need to cross train track at.
The next awards we actually have are focused around our track teams at the high school. And whether it be due to COVID or other reasons, we haven't had a track team in a few years. This year, we've had some adults really step up and help coach. And it's clear after 1 year that we have a lot of talent in Seaford. And Michael, it looks like you're going to be the one representing for your team. So Michael, along with 3 others, they were a part of the Division II boys 4x200 relay state championship team. And the other athletes on that 4x200 relay state champ was Trayvon Paulson, Retiree Seymour, and Jasante Levin. And Jasante was also the Division II 200 meter dash state champion as well.
Thank you.
We're going to set up race. And I do also want to recognize, even though they're not with us tonight, we also had our Division II girls 4x200 relay. They took 3rd place. Jenica Odaris, Carme Lang, Jean Baptiste, Vaseline Medard, and Maisha Seymour.
Oh, great list. Jasante Levin is actually competing this weekend. At national.
Yeah, great. Philadelphia, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. And as a matter of fact, I think he went up to the meet of champions against the Division I and Division II and won that. So, and I think he's running back.
Yeah.
But I think Coach Quillen's plan is to give him the ball a little bit more. So that's good news. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. And congratulations again to everyone. And anyone that received an award or certificate tonight, if you don't want to remain in the ring for the rest of the meeting, you're welcome to be excused. I'll hold you to it. So, thank you so much. Have a great evening. Thank you very much.
It's definitely sport with some talent.
Thank you. All right, under report and presentation, 6.02 is superintendent communications, so I will turn the floor over to Dr. Mickles.
All right, thank you. Well, it's been an exciting end of the school year for the district. Our last student day was June 8th, and our last teacher day officially was today. And during that time, we've had several great events that took place across the district. We had pre-K graduation, our bridge ceremony, and our high school graduation. So those events, I want to thank all the staff who were a part of that, making them special for the students. And also last week, Mr. Cameron and his department put together our retiree celebration and some of our awards across the district. So I just want to highlight that our district teacher of the year is Kiara Briggs. Our educational support professional of the year is Dan Hopkins. Our behavioral health specialist of the year was Jordan Forston. So all of these individuals were highlighted at our awards ceremony, which was held at our middle school, and it was a great event, also catered by Miss Kirby. Another great event there, so thank you for that. You know, one thing that's out there, I think that we are all concerned about is just school safety. So if we pay attention to the news and some of the bills that are coming through, they're looking at just the limiting the sale of certain weapons across the state. But just so the board's aware and the community is aware, this is something the district has taken seriously for a while. And I think we continue to get better at it. So Mrs. Simmons is leading up a lot of this work. I think the board's heard about the visitor management system and our pilot this year. We've had conversations with a lot of our stakeholders, whether it be the mayor, Danny Short, and really anyone else who will listen to us. We're looking just for some more funding. The Chiefs Association put together a memo to legislators about the need to restore school safety funding, and also to try to increase the flexibility in those funds so that you can actually use them on school personnel, whether it be constables or whatever it may be. So it's something we continually analyze. Had a conversation again today with Chief Kraft about some things that they're looking into, grants, et cetera, that we can partner with them on. But it's obviously a concern. Because when you see what happens in Texas, and you think about your own children, or you think about what you would do as an educator to protect, it makes us all stop, think. But we continue to try to figure out the best move for the district. And we've installed a lot of cameras and card swipes. We've taken a look at doors to make sure they're secure, but also we'd feel much more comfortable if we had the funding for people in our buildings. So I'll keep the board updated on that, but that is something we are really pushing and trying to make some moves on. Also, the last thing I have is our summer feeding kickoff will be Thursday,
Correct.
11 o'clock at the library.
Mhm.
Anything else you would add to that?
The festivities are from 11 to 3. The food trucks will be there from 11 to 1. And there's going to be quite a bit of fun stuff at the library. And I must say, it's really the summer reading kickoff. I kind of took ownership of it and thought it was summer reading until I read the back page of the story. I can wait until Gary's the library that I'm kind of taking over it. That's the title. So it is a summer reading kickoff, but we will be there from 11 to 1.
Perfect.
Very good.
Thank you. And that's all I have.
And thank you, Dr. Nicholas, for those updates on our district as we're trying to wind down the school year. And a lot of great things going on or have already happened too. So we'll keep moving along. And that safety, I will tell you too, just for information, I know the legislators are some bills that are coming back when they reopen that deal with some of those
Yeah.
issues too. So
That's good.
that'd be good. All right, the next presentation would be board communications. I have several items to share with the board this evening. First of all, the legislative committee meeting that was held that I chair on June the 1st. The first item at that meeting on June the 1st, the committee reviewed previous positions of House bills. No position changes were recommended or considered by the committee, but there were a lot of other new House bills that we reviewed and took positions on as follows. The first one is House Bill 388. We took a support position. This act authorizes the application of funds from the Delaware School Safety and Security Fund, which is subject to availability appropriations for the retention of constables to be utilized by the LEAs. Just a point of information there, DSBA asked for an amendment to that bill to change the wording from constables to security personnel. Because if it's just labeled as constables, it's gonna so restrict the funds and where school districts can use it. So, and I believe that change was made, so it will say security personnel. House Bill 389, we took a position of opposition on that. This act amends Title 14 of the Delaware Code relating to limitation of public schools tax rate after general reassessments. This act removes the up to 10% increase in school property tax allowed after reassessment. House Bill 396, we took a position to oppose that bill. This is an act to amend Title 14 of the Delaware Code relating to school discipline. It has been the case for several decades that when a juvenile is arrested or charged with certain crimes, the child's school is notified with the Attorney General letter. This act, of course, wants to limit those notifications. And DSBA took the stance to oppose that bill because if we don't get notification about some of these crimes that might be happening outside or off of school grounds, as far as making our students safe and secure at all times and our staff safe and secure at all times, we cannot back that particular bill and taking that away. As I said, that's been in the code for a number of years or several decades, but for some reason, there's some that want to try to remove that. House Bill 326, we took a neutral position. This act created the Delaware Education Right to Know Act to give parents, guardians, and other education stakeholders more information and opportunities to evaluate public and charter school education in Delaware and to express concerns to school officials. We took a neutral there because some of us felt also that we are already doing a lot of these things and didn't really necessarily, we didn't want to take a stance to oppose it, so we took the neutral position. House Bill 430, we took a support position. This is an act to amend Title 14 of the Delaware Code relating to Grow Your Own Educator Program to improve recruitment, retention, and diversity of educators in Delaware. Definitely a bill that we need to support and get more action. Hope that goes on through. House Bill 436, we took a neutral position. This is an act to amend Title 14 of the Delaware Code relating to the Reading Consortium for Educational Equity. This bill extends the dates in which the recommendations and a plan of the Reading Consortium must be reviewed and acted upon by the state Board of Education. Of course, that pertains to mostly the school districts in Newcastle County. Then the committee reviewed the position on Senate bills. We reviewed the previous ones, but there was no position changes recommended or considered by the committee. But we did review some new Senate bills and took the following positions on those. The first one is Senate Bill 279. We took a neutral position. This act creates the Delaware Education Right to Know. This is kind of comparable to the House bill. So we took the same position as we did on the House bill, the Delaware Education Right to Know Act. Senate Bill 287, we took the position to oppose this bill. This act addresses the relation between land development and school capacity and facilities, facilitates greater coordination between counties and local school districts with regard to planning. It must be noted that the sponsor of this bill has developed a substitute bill that is intended to address our concerns, DSBA. Once that bill is reviewed, DSBA will amend its position, but as it's written right now, we oppose that bill. Senate Bill 290, we took a support position. This is a bill to amend Title 14 of the Delaware Code relating to adult sexual misconduct in schools. Senate Bill 291, we took a support position. This bill relates to the policy regarding appropriate relationships with students. And then the last bill that we looked at that evening was Senate Bill 293. We took a support position. This bill is to amend Title 29 of the Delaware Code relating to minor capital improvement funds. This act is companion legislation to Senate Bill 272 that I probably talked about at the last board meeting. Currently, state code requires all school districts to match state funds, appropriated minor improvement funds with 40% local funds, regardless of the district's ability to do so. This bill changes the requirements for the school district to match for minor capital improvement funds to use the more equitable formula in place for major school construction projects. Mr. Henry knows what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. And that was the bill. We moved into old business. Just a couple of things that we mentioned there. We talked about the fiscal year 23 budget. And John is on top of that, has been meeting with the Joint Finance Committee and also with the Bond Bill Committee. Also, the charter tuition tax billing issue was discussed briefly at the meeting. The Attorney General, as well as the districts, CFOs, retained outside counsel on the legal basis for the charter school tuition bills. Superintendents also have offered their continued discussions. And then the last thing that we mentioned that evening in the legislative committee meeting is the student transportation formula increases were discussed. Driver pay allowances slated to increase. It's in the, I don't know if this has been finally approved yet, but going from $16 per hour to $21 per hour. And there is also an expected increase to maintenance allowances since the buses and their maintenance are also more complex than in previous years. And that was the legislative committee. The board of directors that I attended on June the 8th We approved the previous meeting minutes, the treasurer's report. John reported that everything with DSBA is in good standing. We're going to finish up the year with a little bit of surplus, as we've done for the last several years since John handles that book and money phenomenal. I mean, I've been on this DSBA for a number of years, and I know the previous, before John joined us, I knew what it was like, and I can see definitely in the past few years, as I've said a number of times, it has definitely improved. I hope that he stays with us and for a few more years also. So then we had committee reports. He gave his executive director report and what he'd been working on. Of course, he's been working on a lot of bills and legislation. And then we had the board of directors looked at the legislative committee meeting that I just reported to you on. And they looked at the bills and looked at our positions that we took on those bills and agreed with everything that the legislative committee had approved on that. So they approved the board minutes. Under old business, Dr. Maninucci said that reported that the district bills have been sent out to the districts. And in fact, a couple of districts have already made their payment. Under new business, Dr. Marinucci reported sending board member information to the board secretaries in the coming weeks for when we do this next month on reorganization for the committees. And then we also gave John power to move forward with our IRS tax 990. And then Vice President Janice Hanwell from Cape, who was filling in for Ralph Ackerman, who was unable to attend the board of directors. She turned the meeting over to John, who took care of the voting procedure for the new slate of officers that we approved. And all that passed. So the new slate or the new officers are Ralph Ackerman from Brandywine, who is the president. Janice Hanwell from Cape and Lopin is the first vice president. Jason Casper from Red Clay is the second vice president. And myself is the treasurer from Seaford and the legislative committee chair. So those are our officers for the next year. And then we moved into other business. And a couple of things there. We've all received that. John mentioned to us the boot camp that's coming up for new board members on July the 16th. Our new board member is shaking his head. I mean, he was already planned on going to that, and anybody was able to go to that. I plan to go to it just to get a refresher course on the things that are going on. So I've been there a couple of times, I guess, but my opinion, it never hurts to look and listen at it again. So, and then the other thing that John mentioned is that our annual, you all should have received flyers on this, is our annual meeting and picnic at John's property on August the 13th, which is also a Saturday. And the last thing that I have, and if Mr. Purnell would join me over here, please.
Yeah.
It's all been heard. Ron's been with us on the board, and of course he is leaving. And as I said, our new replacement will be Marcus Wright. And so this is your last meeting. I just want to, on behalf of the board, thank you for your service and dedication for the time that you've been here. It's been great to work with you, and I really hate to miss you. But I hope I see you again. And congratulations on the new. This is a plaque presented to Troy Brunel, a board member from August of 2020. to June of 2022. Thank you for your years of dedicated service to the students and the staff of Seaford School District, Seaford Board of Education. Congratulations again. Best wishes.
So I think you want me to say something. And I'm not gonna make the same mistake I did at my wedding and tell people I don't talk that much. I'm not a speaker. I just wanna just take a little bit of time to appreciate everybody here and having me. It was truly an honor to help out and be a part of the forum. And then it feels very comfortable being here with them. And it won't be the last time I'll be around helping students out, so. Just want to say thank you.
Just for now. If we have to get those human markers together.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. Next presentation is 6.04 AEB policy. Mr. Doug Henry. Give you the floor.
There you go. Yeah, so basically, do we have the block presentation? Yeah. So, we're talking about a plaque for Central for the dedication, over there. I think we talked about last word, we had with some ideas of it.
Right.
So basically, the first slide shows, we have one plaque basically, because I like the way the verbiage was, Cam, on that and what Cam had for us. We did have some trouble coming up with a picture, but, what we came up with so far is maybe we just, in the picture, we thought about maybe taking a picture of Central, like the front of Central itself, and then putting that into the picture part of it and see what that looks like, and come back to the board with that option. Cam, you want to speak on that?
Yeah, we work with the Historical Society, the museum, and Chandra even worked with her mom through it, and they're does many pictures, and they even have a family historian of some sort that is looking through it. We haven't been able to find anything, so now we're kind of looking back and find a picture of Central in that time period. We thought it'd be appropriate, but there just doesn't seem to be any pictures. So if there's anybody in the community who has any, please let us know.
And it seems like with these plaques, the high res pictures that we can take with new cameras now come out a lot better on the plaque. So we thought about basically coming to this side of Central and taking a picture off to the side of it to where it doesn't show the new addition back there, because we don't want that included. You know what I mean? We want to catch the whole part of the original building. So that's what we're planning on doing, and we'll see how that picture turns out on the next plaque.
I'm sure you've checked the local papers. So, because I think there was an article,
I couldn't find.
you couldn't find it.
We look, I mean, I've worked with some folks, you just can't find anything, any picture at all.
I don't think the news wanted to cover it,
Oh,
so there's no.
okay. All right.
So, if you guys agree to the verbiage on the plaque, I'll come back to the next board meeting with a picture, high res, or I can send it to Corey and have you guys approve it, without, that's up to you guys. And I guess my options are a vertical plaque or a horizontal plaque. Would you guys rather wait until you see the picture on both of them as to how that would look, or you want to go ahead and move forward with that so we can narrow that down? Okay. So, I guess basically what we'll need them is to call an approval on either a vertical or horizontal plaque, and then,
Well, let's have a little bit of discussion here. Just
okay.
first, in my opinion, I kind of like the horizontal plaque. But
That's kind of the one I like too. I think that looks good with the picture.
I think I like the vertical. It's much safer, there's so much space.
Okay,
That's more evenly distributed, and the text could come up some
okay.
from the bottom.
Yeah, the picture of you, sir, but it probably will false, you know what I mean, it'll be a big picture of the building. So,
You're talking about this space here.
Yeah.
People or just.
Now, they can't find one of them at that time, so they want to take a picture of the old part of the building, because that's when it.
Got it. Computer ready.
Like the vertical, I'm just, the picture, we were gonna take one of both Chandra and
But it's not just her.
It's not just her.
Understood.
Yeah,
Understood.
I thought that too.
I mean-
It wouldn't be just, it's not just them. Also, Mr. Toll and, Mr. Henry, I know that after, I shared this, I did find out, and Troy can attest, the cousins have an E on the end of code where Shonda's mother does not, so we just wanna make sure that we have that correctly, and when the time comes, and I'll double check it with Shonda and send it to you.
okay. Anything else on it?
Well, it looks like
It's,
the consensus is only over in horizontal, but that's fine. I like either one of them myself.
Where, did we talk about a location yet? Not yet, just.
We can do that, I mean, we can talk now about the location, actually. Or if you wanna wait for the next meeting, we'll talk about location, I'll come back to the plan on the plaque, and you guys know what it looks like, and then we'll pick the location where.
Okay.
And my only other thing, is where Derek's name is after, after court,
Okay.
maybe move further.
Like that.
Well, I think they got it in alphabetical order.
Yeah, so just, you wanna flip it like we did the last plaque, does that make, did you like that, you remember that? Sure. Sherman, what? Sherman.
Then Sermon.
I don't remember, but if that's the
It's over there.
protocol, order wise, then yes.
Okay. Yeah.
I think the plaque would actually look good horizontally if this was centered and the picture covers the top portion of that.
All
Long
the way
ways
across.
of the school, like long ways.
If the picture went all the way across.
Really?
Okay. Another option, I guess.
So Troy, what you're talking about is, let me make sure I'm clear here, so it's the vertical plaque with the picture all the way across, or the horizontal plaque? The horizontal plaque with the picture all the way across.
And the text underneath.
Okay,
And the text underneath.
okay. Jared, you good with that?
I am.
Can you make a note there?
Yes, sir. We could probably get them both mocked up and see what they look like.
Yeah, I'll get
That would be
it.
good.
That would be great.
To know if they can do that.
I know that at the time, Chandra was the associate principal at Central, but now she's principal.
Do we go,
We need to
do we
make
go
sure
ahead
that-
and make her principal on there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes,
Good point.
real time.
Bring it up.
So you can't change that.
Yeah, but that, don't bother them, it's, they want to make sure that we don't.
But he was
When he
here,
was here,
he was here when
When we decided on it, she was associate for that inspection.
well, that's true too.
That is true.
I mean, we're not trying to change the script. I mean, this, when all this started.
When it all
everything-
started.
Everything should remain the way it's me. If we're really true historian,
but we want to make sure it's up to date before we make. So, we can talk about
There, you would just let me know what you're coming up with on that, too. I can get that changed.
it. I will let you know. Thank you.
So our plan at the next board meeting will be to bring back some,
I'll bring back a vertical, I'll bring back a horizontal with the building. And then that way we can look at those mock-ups and I'll get the board meetings and all that switched around later. And then you just let me know what you decide.
Are they still trying to locate any kind of foods?
We keep
Because
looking.
in my mind, I don't know why I think this, but
My
it
cousin.
seems to me, I've
But
seen
one of them got it.
a picture of these, the three students.
I searched Delaware archives and couldn't find it. I searched newspaper archives and couldn't find
I'll look
it.
later.
You got extra house.
No, I'm just in my mind, for some reason, it seems to me that I've seen.
it probably was just.
But you know, if someone was able to find it, they would have news story.
Yeah,
When they-
sure. Oh, okay, well,
Okay,
have you got what we need, or
I got what we need now, I gotta start.
Okay. bring that back to us the next time?
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
All right, 6:05 is summer feeding. Mrs. Kirby, I'll turn the floor over to you to give us some updates from the federal government and changes and restrictions, I guess.
Correct.
Okay. You got the floor.
And this is my favorite time of year. So the food trucks will start on the 22nd of June. And they will run until August 5th. This year, we're gonna run Monday through Friday. Because the waivers that came into place when COVID started, where we had a lot of flexibility, giving out multiple meals to one person, even though the child was not in the truck. Those waivers are going away at the end of June. And so we're going to make sure that we serve as many children as possible. We are gonna run Monday through Friday. We can only serve one meal from the trucks this summer, which is lunch, and the students have to be, well, the children have to be in the truck. So that is very different. And that is gonna be something that we need to communicate in a very positive fashion, because I don't want people to come through the truck and it become a really big deal. And so at the summer reading kickoff, we're gonna have little information cards that have the stops. We're gonna communicate to everyone. The students need the children need to be present in the truck. We're only gonna have one meal at the truck. So we want to communicate as much as possible. And Cam, Megan, and I are gonna meet later this week to see other ways we can kind of bombard the community with this information. So no one's surprised, no one's caught off guard. So the people that work on the food truck, I don't want them to have to deal with all that negative energy, because it's a wonderful program. It's going to continue to be a wonderful program. These waivers were in place for a reason. That we were hoping they would last for a while, but they are not going to. So we're going to just kind of push forward. And because we were able to serve breakfast from the food trucks for the past 2 years, we are going to set up for half an hour at the schools that have summer school to serve breakfast. Just to kind of capture those children also. Any questions? And I wanted to make sure you knew, because if any community members ask you, why can they only get one meal? It's because the USDA is, they changed the way that they are letting us feed the students in summer.
And Ms. Kirby, we spoke about it already, so
Yes.
if this flyer is what you have to go out, I'll make sure that one stop is taken care of.
Okay.
One of my crew and I'll make sure.
Okay.
it's taken care of.
And I'm gonna go to the other stops and give them this flyer, give them my information, and give them some of the little handouts also to make sure that if anyone else, they will have all the information. Thank you.
Thank you. 6.06 is key priorities. We're going to review a couple of the key priorities. Recruitment and retention and technology. Dr. D and Cam, you two guys have, whichever way you want to work it out, okay?
Yeah. I think I'm first up. So good evening. Keith and I are going to provide an update on a couple of our key priorities this evening. Obviously, he's going to touch on recruitment, hiring, retention, and I'm going to speak to the technology and student supports minus the facilities part, because I would hate to go into Mr. Henry's like that. But one of our, the overarching goal here is to have a systematic approach to evaluating our policies and the programs that are impacted by those policies. No, sorry, threw me there with going straight to instructional technology. So instructional technology was one of the areas that we really took a deep look at in terms of what is our 10-year plan. And if you recall back at our board workshop, we talked a lot about what had already been done, what was the grand plan, and kind of where have we gotten to at the end of each of these last 2 school years. Mr. Hale Patches was amazing in terms of engaging with stakeholders. And in his arena, those stakeholders are primarily teachers because they are the ones using the technology, interacting with students on the use of it. And so over the course of this year, and then with a bigger push going into next year, we're going from smart boards to a Apple TV, iPad, television configuration. Not only is the technology kind of more up and coming, but it's at a much lower replacement cost than the old smartboard technology. We're also this summer going to be replacing the district telephone system. We've worked for about a year to figure out what was cost effective, what was going to give us the biggest bang for the buck. And again, over that 10-year plan, what was going to make sense financially in terms of having regular kind of bills due versus all of a sudden we'd have to pay $100,000 this year and then do it again in 5 years. How do we space that out and make it fiscally responsible for the district? So that's working over the summer. And then just in general, whether it's internet, whether it's the wireless access points, Chromebooks, laptops for staff members. If you recall, our contract changed a little bit last year, and we had to make sure that we had appropriate devices for paraprofessionals. What we found during the pandemic is that many of our paraprofessionals do have those primary instructional duties, especially in the special programs. So making sure that they had the appropriate device for the work that they were doing. This last week, he and his team were working on inventory, and our next push is going to be going back and reclaiming devices that have not yet been turned in for the end of this school year. So if you see us driving around knocking on doors, we're trying to track down Chromebooks, right? Yeah. Yes. Right. Here is an overview of our policy review from this year. I remember at that meeting talking about taking on this work, and the staff was very excited. So I think of you every time I come through this schedule. So this is where this is what we were able to accomplish this year. And I think I told you last summer, when we reviewed the policy manual, there were more than 400 discrete policy entries. So you think of the work we've done this year, where we've reviewed at least one, if not 2 pieces of policy, and the regulation. Sorry, yes, I go along with it. I feel like, okay, we've been trucking right along, and then you look at the total, we can either be encouraged or discouraged, but I feel like this is encouraging in that we're starting to hit a rhythm and a stride. And we have plans going into next year, maybe looking at some more significant policies. I feel like this was almost a test run this year to figure out how our processes work. And then as we go into next year, if we're looking at bigger projects, like with Dr. Carvajal Hageman, when it comes to curriculum, then to really have a process nailed down that we know what that's going to look like going into next year. And I think, did we get on for tonight? I think we even got tonight's policy not here, so we were thinking ahead. So there's our policy review. Like I said, our next step is just a needs assessment. What policies do we need to start looking at? How do we continue align our policy review to district priorities? I'd like to come up with a draft schedule for next year. And then again, a little bit more of that stakeholder involvement if we're going to be working on policies that have a broader scale. So I wanted to touch on this as well. We talked last month about preschool tuition costs, but I also wanted you to understand that the licensing and expansion is a growing project within my special education team. Have been lucky enough that Lisa Doyle was handling a lot of the CDW transitions, child find, working with area daycare providers. With her retirement, we passed the baton on to Julie Rementer, and she's very excited to take the lead on our licensing work. We have had a committee over the course of this year. We were meeting even, I think, bi-monthly at first, as it looked like we were going to have to submit that application this year. Once it was determined to be next year, we backed off a little bit with that. But it's been a great team. They were the ones that did the research when it came to setting the tuition standards, and they will continue to help out with kind of analyzing what does this look like long-term financially. Having Megan's help with that too, just knowing what staff we need to hire. Do they come in under the regular contract? Are they outside of the contract because they're not certified teachers? Are they hourly rate? What kind of training do they need? There are so many pieces tied together. But we have really good people, and they are really excited to do this work. They're really excited to offer something that maybe no other district is going to offer. The other kind of fun piece is that we're looking to with that curricular alignment. Again, with Kelly, we're seeing how we can have a bookworms framework for preschool, so those students are familiar with the tone and trend, the rhythm of that curriculum as they move into our K schools. And that meeting, we had one last week. We're doing walkthroughs with them later in July. And again, another exciting piece there. And I just found out that as of last week, we met all of our preschool indicators for last year. So we're very excited. Yes, thank you. The work and that effort from our preschool team regarding those early intervention services, which we know are so important. And I'll turn it over to Mr. Cameron.
You sure you did a good job. So my key priority focuses on recruiting of staff and pensions and just the well qualified person that we're trying to do recruiting. And because recruiting was always challenging, and it's been up a lot of layers with the lack of candidates and over the last couple of years with different things that have happened. So recruiting this year consisted of a mix of both in-person and virtual events. I'd say that when it first started out, it looked like it was going to be a little bit more 50-50 in-person and virtual, probably went more to about a 75-25 model, with some places going to virtual instead of in-person. A couple of the ones that we have done a lot of times, like the PERC, which is in Pittsburgh, which is the western side of Pennsylvania, and the Delaware Valley, which is Philly area, which is the eastern side of the state, and the Buffalo and Rochester and all those areas, all were virtual. And I shared about this before. When you're in a virtual, you're kind of at the mercy of people coming into your virtual room or signing up with you beforehand. A couple of the universities with the career do a nice job of getting the resume down. You can try to make appointments, and that's still a good hit or miss, whether they get you or not, as opposed to being in a room somewhere and somebody goes like, hey, Matt, come on, let me tell you about Seaford, and you can, do a lot more in getting people into you. Where when I'm recruiting in Philadelphia, but sitting in my office, it's a little more difficult. But it looks like a lot of the email we're receiving now about for next year, we're back in person. So I will hope that stays that way. Unfortunately, we saw fewer candidates than ever, and that was across everywhere. The one example that I give is the one in person one in Ocean City had 36 recruiters there and only 60 candidates. So you can do the math real quick, and for the first time ever, they had no walk-ins. And I'd probably say 25% of the pot that came into that career fair were walk-ins the day up. So we actually, when that was over, we sat down with the group that runs that, because they also want to run the one up in Appoquinimink. And they talked about some different strategies, and that one was attended a little bit better. So hopefully it was also a little bit later on in the pandemic where some stuff was getting relaxed as well. So I think that played a role. But we didn't let the virtual piece kind of define who we are. I went to many college campuses that it wasn't career fairs, getting up with career services, getting on room to interview folks or getting to talk to some classes. And I did that both in person. I did some of that virtually as well, sent a couple of panels about resumes and interview tips, and always, being able to sell the district. And that's kind of the trade-off. I'll give you my time if I get to give the push there. So we're fortunately we were able to, on a couple of those trips, talk to folks and get them here. Later tonight, when we look at the personnel memo, there's students that we're going to look for your approval to teach with us. And I think it's funny, Ms. Everett, I think you and I took a picture at the Dell State one, which was in person. And it was probably maybe a minute after that, this young lady came up to us, and you were going to hopefully welcome her to the Blades family. So it was great to be back on Dell State. I think that day they said it was the biggest event on campus since March 20. So it was great to have that. So that was a little bit of our recruitment. We went to some different places. Dr. Bell and I went out to Central State University out in Ohio. With his connection of being tight with the president, it was nice enough for us to have dinner with President Thomas, and we really had a great time. We got to pick his brain about some stuff, and he picked our brain about some things, and had a great time talking to students out there. We were dealing with some Delaware from Maryland schools there, but being able to talk to folks and create some interest and start trying to build another pipeline. And it was interesting out there that, and Dr. would probably say, we talked to a ton of students from Michigan. It was unique that part of Ohio is the closest HBCU to us. And, they were looking, yes, let's go to Michigan. We thought, well, hey, there's not a lot of snow in Delaware when you see Michigan. So we were using every tactic we could to get folks. But it was a great experience and just a real nice time out there. So let's go ahead and look into our retention numbers. So we kind of picked the spot in time here. So 49 employees have left since July 1 of 21. And that probably changed a little bit since we put this presentation together mid last week. And then since that same date in July, we hired 92. And that does not include rehires. So rehires are folks that are on temp that we bring back. But that's a whole lot of work that goes on in the HR office between Ms. Math and Ms. Hudson, and then also in Ms. Brennan's office with the finance and everything that we have to do involved there. We had 23 ARTC teachers in this past school year. And just to think about it, one time, the program was hoping to have 100 statewide. If you got over 100, you had to start paying some money if you got the students that came after that. And you never had to pay money. Now you have to pay some money because there are so many ARTC candidates that are helping fill positions. I mean, you think of district our side versus some districts, upstate, other side, and we have 23. So it is what it is, and only going to get better. We'll talk about that here in the next slide. The NET program was part of our retention effort. Remember that it was new educators to see for teaching. So anybody who was in year one or new to Delaware, we had a monthly meeting and we had different topics for them. We had one on special ed, one on parent conferences, we had some self-help, we had one about open enrollment, and attendance varied. It seemed to be that they like Zoom a lot better than seeing me in person. I can't blame them. But it worked out a little bit because of just the difference in the time frame, as far as if we were having it at 4 o'clock, then the secondary folks started to stick around a little bit longer. So the Zoom kind of helped that attendance, and kind of working with the principals about what this could look like in a little bit more individual basis between maybe a secondary and an elementary model we go through. So that was the first of the program, and we, kind of learning with it. Ideally, what we were hoping to do was apply for one of the CIP grants that we could pay, but the department didn't offer the CIP grants this year because they're looking at revamping the entire comprehensive induction program. I know I'm talking that, but they're looking at revamping that program, so they did not offer the grants this year. So that's part of what they're working on. The department has a group together just looking at how to rework the CIP a little, the mentoring program. So the partnerships are very important to us. So our ARTs programs we work with the University of Delaware and Williams University. And I'm excited that we're going to start working with Del State University with ARTC. So they spent a lot of last year building their program. They, Dr. Tina Mitchell, who is just tremendous to work with, is basically bringing the Western program under the Del State family when they combine. One of the first things we had a meeting Saturday, and she said, how do we build our brand down in Sussex County? How can we get more folks to us, more minority folks to us? And I said, you gotta come to them. I said, Dover isn't that far, but it seems very far. And so they had an informational meeting here. They had one in Indian River, and we've talked about in the cohort that they're looking to do. They're looking at the Sussex County cohort, and we looked at even the ability for us to offer classes here to use our facility here at the high school to offer them. Which hopefully that means we can get in there, get in there and teach them our way and do some different things. We've already had 2 of our folks switch from another university into the Del State program. So looking to have a cohort of 10, and they're getting close. It's all I haven't heard from Dr. Mitchell in 2 weeks, so she must be on vacation or very busy because we talk all the time about, hey, this is where we're running a cohort. So we're really excited to have that and where we are. So then the Sussex County cohort we talked about, the Williams University, we were year 1 of the year-long residency that we're going to have with them. Year 2 actually means we'll have residents here. So we were going to have 5 elementary teachers at Frederick Douglass who are going to be with us for the entire year. So that is, they are there from the first day of school until the last day of school. And that is their student teaching. So combined with their student teaching, they're also doing their methods classes in there. So they are paired with a teacher the entire time, and they do everything. They learn how to start you, they learn how to do parent conferences. And for anybody who's ever worked with teachers that come out of a program like this, you hire those folks, you're not getting a year 1 teacher. You're getting a teacher who's like in their second year because they've been through everything. And the nice thing is we're going to have them for that time, and we basically have the first right of refusal with them. If we like them, we have the ability to hire them. That's what we hope to do. We hope to teach them the secret way of doing things and getting them in there. And we're excited. We had a meeting. Sorry, my weeks are starting to run together. I think it was last week, or the week before, where we sat down with Tyler Wells from Wilmington and Miss Levely and the folks that are looking to do this, and had a great conversation. They're going to have some meetings this summer where they look to pair up who makes the most sense with each other. And it's only Frederick Douglass first for 2 reasons. It's a high-need school on their list. So, and they like to have the cohort in one place for the students to be able to build off of each other. So really excited. And then the next piece, Del Tech is starting their 4-year elementary degree. Next year is the first year of, they'll be year 3. And one of the things that we work with Dr. Pill and Dr. Kine is that we want to have our own secret group. So we get them in year 3, they're doing their practicums, their observations, participations with us, and then we get that same group in their year 4. And they're looking at a very similar model. I've been a part of 2 or 3 meetings. We're looking, what does this program look like? And there'll be something very similar. They're going to have 20 per county. So for this first semester, and then they're going to look at adding another 10 for the spring semester. So it'll be 30 per county. And of course, all the schools in the county are one as many as we can get. And actually, I would. Mr. Henry's a proud father here because his daughter was accepted into the program. So that was something we were excited about. And Dr. Kine always tells us to take, you got to want nothing but to come to the nest. And Tori is one of them. So we're excited, and I think it's gonna be great. It's some Del Tech listened. We talked about what our needs were. And of course, the first meeting, I couldn't miss the opportunity. I said, I think this is wonderful. I'm excited about this. When can we get secondary math and secondary science? And of course, Dr. Phil said, I knew you would say that, and we're working backward. But it's been a great partnership, and we're really excited because so many of our students go to Del Tech. And that's why we talk about it's not in the presentation, but they grow your own, what the department's starting to do. This is a big part of that. And we're really excited that we're going to have this right in our backyard. And something that didn't make the presentation too was hot off the press after Dr. T took my slide and put it in hers. In our teacher academy this year, we had the students take the parapro. So that they come out with that certification when they're able to. We had 14 of our teacher academy students pass the parapro. So when they graduate high school, they can hire a para. So that was seniors and front of classroom. Needs to get even better, 8 of 14 are minorities. So we're starting to build that. I had Dr. Kine came in for the second year in a row and spoke with my wife's Spanish 4 and AP students, and we try to build a pipeline of emerging teachers out through as well. So anytime he's coming to see, talk about the teacher academy, he lets me know, and I try to get him somewhere else. Obviously, well, this is recorded, huh? Obviously, I can tell my wife to take him. But then sometimes, hey, talk on the science, you know, talking to some of the other students as well. So it's been a great part. All the universities we want to work with. We're really excited with what we're trying to do. Of course, we're all competing for a lot of folks that aren't there. We'll be able to tell by the lady in the personnel memo this month. We're still hiring, still got some spots out there, but I think in talking with some of my colleagues, I think we're in a pretty decent spot. Now, mind you, this is the season of stealing, so everybody starts taking from each other. And we have a meeting on Thursday where I get to remind everybody, hey, you know, let's be nice to each other, let's call each other if this happens. But it's kind of where we are right now. So that's a little bit of where we've gotten to online.
Thank you. Great presentation. Interesting things there. Very good.
Mr. Karen, before we move on, I want to say, I know that since I've been here, I pushed for the district to cast their net a bit wider and include more of the HBCUs that are in the driving distance, and I appreciate your efforts behind that. You've been keeping me up to date with it, but just like building relationships with Wilmington and UV and Bell State, our relationship is built after numerous touch points. So I hope that you continue in that effort to cast that line with multiple meetings and multiple touch points so that we can.
Our good friend over there at UMS, we talk probably at least once a month, if not twice a month, about different stuff. I was actually at their ceremony for the man tour and really enjoyed that. A great program there. And it's a network. We're really trying to work. There's, you know, sometimes it's like I think I can talk to Don. I just had this conversation with time. At what point do I become annoying? Now my wife might have a different answer for it. But I'd rather be considered that. I'll say persistent, but not annoying. I think we're really trying to get, and I am very excited about partnership we have coming in. This residency, I have worked in a lot of others, and they were willing to offer to another school in the county, and they came to us right away, and it was like, yes, how fast can we sign on the paper?
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Dr. D and Mr. Cameron, for that presentation. All right, we're moving on to the action part of our agenda, item 7. 7.01 is DFD, gate receipts and emissions. This is the second reading. We looked at the first reading. I don't know that, does anybody need any refresher or anything on that? So you okay? So the recommended action is to approve the second reading of DFD, gate receipts and emissions.
Acceptance, and I make a motion that we approve the second reading of DFD, the receipts and mentions as presented.
It's been moved and second to approve the second reading of DFD, gate receipts and emissions. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. 7.02 is custodian CBA. Cam, is there something you need to?
I would just say, so the reason for this MOU is when GED-R reports that vacation holiday, we discussed that regulation changing. The chart that we used to have is in the custodian CBA as 9.1. So obviously, for change the regulation, we have to change that chart. So we're going to put this in for 1 year, and then when we negotiate, we'll have it in goal and renegotiate in, next year. So, it was one of the easier MOU meetings I think I've ever had in my career negotiating. Yeah, it makes sense. We have to do it. So that's what the need is.
Good.
Well, this is Kim Hopkins, and I move that we approve the amendment to the custodian contract.
Jeff Benson, I second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the amendment to the custodian contract. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. 7.03 is the bus driver's CBA. Cam, I'll turn it over to you again.
Sir, so you kind of mentioned, Dave, that the state talking about what they're looking to do for pay increase for drivers. So Miss Brennan and I sat down with the association and spoke with them. And even though it wasn't the time to negotiate, we said, look, we're gonna have a conversation and then we'll decide where we're gonna go. We sat down and talked about wanting to do something for our drivers and where this is going, and what the state was. So once the state kind of put stuff where they thought it was gonna be, we sat down and there, an adjustment made to the scale for 1 year, because once again, you're in negotiations. I'm fortunate enough to be negotiating all pre-contracts next year on your behalf. And so we'll do this. This is for 1 year to go along with what the state.
So that's for the amount that Mr. Paul said earlier.
It's in there, yeah.
It's in there, yeah.
All right, this is Kim Hopkins. I move that we approve the amendment to the bus driver contract.
Sarah Savage, I second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the amendment to the bus driver contract. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. 7.04 is school choice. You will see on your agenda that there are 3 applications. Remember, you cannot mention any names. Does anybody have any? So recommended action is to approve school choice applications 2022-23-14 through 2022-23. Should that be -16?
It is. It is on the online.
Okay.
This is Sarah Savage. I move we accept the school choice applications 2022-23-14 through 2022-23-16.
This is Kim Hopkins, our second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the school choice applications 2022-23-14 through 2022-23-16. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. 7.05 is field trips. We have no field trip requests for consideration. 7.06 is facilities requests, and there are no requests on the agenda for that. So we'll move on to 7.04, fiscal year 2023 tax rates. And I will turn that over to Mrs. Brennan.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So for fiscal year 2023, our tax base is increasing by about $3 million to $228 million. So for every single penny we collect, it is $22,217. So for fiscal year 2023, there are 2 minor modifications. The first is going to be an increase of 0.0447 in debt service, and this is because this is the first year our central elementary roof replacement project is coming online and we have to make our first payment. The second is a decrease of 0.1091 for tuition, and this is, given the unpredictability in some of both the students and the placements, we are able to decrease the rates for that. So the rate for next year will be a total of it will be 4.0923, an overall decrease of 0.0644. So our tax rate is increasing. Yeah.
For every penny collected, what was it?
It is $22,217.
So the tax rate's almost decreasing by almost 6.5 cents.
Yep. All other areas are remaining the same. There's 2 areas of match tax, opportunity funds, and the K-3 special education. We as a district do not select from either of those, and that is continuing on as practice.
Okay, very good. Any other questions?
No.
Recommended action is to approve the fiscal year 2023 tax rates as presented.
There's that, we accept the 2023 tax rate as presented.
Kim Hopkins, I'm second.
Then move the second to approve the fiscal year 2023 tax rates as presented. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Mr. Brennan, you still have the floor for the fiscal year of 2023 preliminary budget.
Thank you. So this is the fiscal year 2023 preliminary budget. It is based upon a 98% guarantee that we agreed upon with the Department of Education for 248.92 Division I units. We are also utilizing current year both voc ed and needs-based units because we will not know those until later on in the September 30th unit count. And we have also incorporated in this budget some of our projected reduction plan areas because we do have a reduction. We have another year of the alternative reduction plan. So that has all been factored into this. If you want to keep scrolling down. So the total budget, our total anticipated revenue would be $12,647,391. And if you flip to the next page, the preliminary operating budget, you will also see balances to this number. A couple of changes I would like to highlight. So in working both with the principals and also the Citizens Budget Oversight Committee, we used to have broken out performing art lines within the elementary. And it was requested that these be actually folded into their budget and not specifically broken out. The middle school and the high school both still wanted these differentiated. A couple of other points, just to make, we will also be continuing to utilize ESSER funds for nurse supplies for for all schools next year. And you will also see increases in curriculum for the current year due to ESSER. It was at 0, and this is building the budget back to 50,000. We are also anticipating utility costs of $60,000 over our current year. So we built that into the budget. Athletics will be going up by $10,000. This is to add middle school volleyball. There's a couple of other minor reductions or just kind of rebalancing. Part of that is based upon actual spend or what I know as known costs at this point. We're holding the salary line constant from this year into next year.
And you mentioned the 98%, so the 2% contingency is not part of the set aside that we see for this.
So first of all the revenue we right away run through the 98%. So we only build the budget based upon tax collection of 98%. That has all been factored into this. We will get to the set aside momentarily when we get to the next set of budget documents.
Any other questions? Not, recommended action is to approve the fiscal year 2023 preliminary budget as presented.
Chef Benson, I make a motion to approve the fiscal year 2023 preliminary budget as presented.
Now, second.
Then moved and seconded to approve the fiscal year 2023 preliminary budget as presented. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Mr. Brennan, you still have the floor
Thank you. Annette.
for financial report.
Okay, so in terms of our discretionary budget, we have spent at this point 91.66 or 91.66% of the way through the fiscal year, and we have either encumbered or spent 88.59%. Since the last time we met, we have expended or encumbered $746,000.
you will see that we have done some more local recodes to both tuition and to the state when it was appropriate. So we've been able to free up some funding in the local salaries. In terms of taxes, we actually today received 40,510 for our June. Well, we made taxes that we received in the month of June. We also received our second tier property tax payment. But wait, well, in your version you don't have, but I will tell you there's $40,000 that we literally received today right there. So the total bottom line for taxes then becomes. We are currently at 104.2%, and we brought in 6.131787. In terms of the set aside, previously, this has not changed since the July meeting. You will now notice a second column that says June 2022 transfers. There is $500,000 that is being proposed to be transferred to 3 different pots: $250,000 to security, $100,000 to technology, and $150,000 to buildings. So this would be before the end of the year being transferred out and moved into our set aside fund permanently. And the final is the revenue report. So in terms of state funds, there was a net decrease of about $97,000. A portion of that is associated with House Bill 100 and funds that the state pulled back that were not utilized. In terms of local funds, we have an increase of $534,000, and this is spread across cafeteria, tuition, debt service, current expense. The bulk of this was in cafeteria funds. Over $330,000 was for cafeteria, which includes salaries and other expenses. And then finally, in federal funds, there really wasn't much change since the last meeting.
Anyone have any questions? Recommended action is to approve the, thank you, Mrs. Brennan. Recommended action is to approve the monthly finance reports as presented.
Jeff Benson, I make a motion to approve the monthly financial reports as presented.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the monthly financial reports as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item 8 is long-range agenda. Under the long-range agenda items, June the 20th, school grounds and buildings are closed for Juneteenth. July the 4th, school buildings are closed for July the 4th. And we're back in the boardroom on July the 5th for our board reorganizational meeting at 6 p.m. That's on June the 5th. Or excuse me, July the 5th. I'm sorry.
Going backwards.
Yes. Which are good. Okay. Any other questions? All right. Moving on, we need to move to item number 9, executive session. So I need a motion to go into executive session.
This is Kim Hopkins. I need that we move into executive session.
There, that's second.
We moved and seconded to enter into executive session. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries, and the time is 7:23 p.m. Thank you so much for attending tonight.